Pilot who got lost and landed at a strange airport, only to discover that the plane parked at the airport he had never seen before, not to mention not of his time. Soon airport security arrives, stopped him. They kept looking at him with strange eyes. They said, "How can you fly such an old plane?" When confronted with the officer's words, Dirk was puzzled by what he heard. He learned from them that this was a French airfield, and he was a British pilot. Obviously, he was in the wrong place, but he also marveled that their technology was so advanced. He was then taken to the airport security office in a daze. General George then questioned him. Dirk replied that he was a second lieutenant in the Royal Flying Corps. George felt very strange about Dirk's behavior and speech. The so-called Royal Flying Corps no longer existed. I thought he was flying around the area or making movies, but Dirk faced these queries and had no idea what was going on. See, Dirk and his own communication is simply the answer to the question. George acted helplessly when the two heard Dirk say he intended to land in the British Royal Army 56 base, but ended up landing by mistake. When this statement was made, Will next to him felt very surprised, and George also felt strange. Will started to look at Dirk and asked him what day it was.
March the 5th.
What year?
1917.
1917.
Dirk was very determined to say yes. Will's eyes stared straight at him. He wondered if the Dirk in front of him was mentally ill. Dirk said, "Isn't he?" Answering Dirk's confusion, he told Dirk that it was March 5th, 1959. Dirk was chagrined to hear this. He just froze in place, thinking what the hell is going on here? How could there be a 42-year difference? He thought it must be a joke, but seeing the serious expressions of the two men, Will also shook his head to indicate that it was not. This made Dirk really could not understand what was wrong. He couldn't help but wonder if it was true. George expressed his opinion. That is, he would not believe what Dirk said. At this point, Dirk was getting a little emotional. He told both men in no uncertain terms he was in 1917 when he took off this morning. There was no mistaking it. Suddenly he was drawn to the sound of planes roaring outside his window. Looking out the window at the big, modern airplanes, and looking at the big clouds in the sky, he seemed to think of something. He said to himself that he was flying through that cloud of rocks, but he didn't hear the sound of the engine. It was like being sucked into a vacuum. He also remembered some previous rumors. There was a pilot who was flying through a cloud, and the plane, for some reason, just disappeared. George said, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Seeing that he was still not trusted, Dirk swore that he was on patrol with his teammate McLaren, but George suddenly said McLaren's full name. This surprised Dirk. George, however, told him sternly, McLaren is their air marshal. He was now flying to this base. He'll be making an inspection later. He also warned Dirk that if he lied, it would end badly for him. Dirk certainly didn't believe in such coincidences.
But that's impossible.
Why is it impossible?
Because he's dead.